let's talk reading plans for April 2024. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is going to be an MBR of sorts for April and a little bit of a life update. So we'll start with the life update. There will be timestamps down below. If you don't really care, if you want to get to the books, totally respect that, and you'll be able to do that just by clicking the little button down below that'll take you to the books. Before we jump into the TBR or MBR or whatever BR today, make sure you check the description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. Now, as a quick little life update, for the month of April, I will largely be taking this month off with the exception of the occasional live that's happening or a video like this where it's one of the stock standard of BookTube. So I will be doing this one before Easter, so this will be the TBR, which will come out. I'll probably very likely do a wrap-up where I go through all the books that I have read in the month of March, and I'll also do the indie releases video when that list comes available. Yeah, the reason for this break is it feels quite timely. Personally, my mental health hasn't been great. It seems like it's been on the decline for a couple of months now. Things that would normally bring me joy are still doing so, but in a much smaller capacity. I'm not feeling like I'm able to review effectively. I'm not reading as much. I'm not writing my own work in progress as much, and I'm not doing as much with the blog as I would like to do. And it just sort of seems like it's time to do a bit of a slowdown to reset and make sure that I can continue to enjoy those things. Like I said, I'm still enjoying them and I'm still doing most of them daily, but I'm not doing all of them. Whereas once upon a time, before we moved over to Perth, I would structure my life around these things, and I might be able to do 3 or 4 of them in a day where I could create content, I could go and write a review. It's just not happening that way in my brain right now. So it's time for a bit of a step back. You've probably noticed, if you've been around for a long time, the amount of reviews that are coming out are not as frequent, and that's because I'm having a lot of difficulty just sitting down and writing them. So at the moment, for what's happening in my life and my brain, if I can do one of those things per day, I might work on my manuscript and do a writing sprint, and that will be what I can get done in that day. I might write a review of a book that's really knocked my socks off, but I'm not writing huge reviews for every book. I'll write little Goodreads snippets. I will try and write a review for every indie book that I read, but they may not get a video right now just because of the way that it's working. So there's still things that are bringing me joy, and I'm still utilizing them to bring my life joy right now, but it's just not in as much as I would normally do. So we'll see what happens there. The second thing and the second reason why I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break is, I think this is the first time I've announced it on the channel, but Rachel and I have purchased a house. It was, oh no, I have mentioned it before a couple of videos ago, but it's now time to move into that house. So we've been very grateful to live in this house with some friends of ours, and that time is coming to an end. So we would get the keys, probably the day that this video comes out will be the day that we get the keys. And because of the Easter long weekend, we can't actually move into the house until next week, but we will be doing all of that next week. And we don't have a whole bunch of furniture. So when Rachel and I moved to Perth, we downsized a lot of what we had. We had a 4-bedroom house for 2 people, which is ridiculous. And we filled it with furniture. Then we downsized, so we need to see what we have and what we need and put our house together. My library / nook / whatever it's going to look like, I do have a designated space for books. It's not going to be the vision that I hoped it would be, but it's still going to be my area and my books, and we will make it homey and loving and just a space that I want to be in, where I'll set up my office and my little bookshelf, hopefully filled with lots of indie bits and pieces. So that's going to take a little bit of time to get set up. So that is what I'll be taking the next month to do, and I will hopefully see everyone towards the end of April, fingers crossed, with a special episode of the Queer Corner, talking to some friends of mine about trans experiences. So look forward to that. Anyway, let's jump into the MBR and what may be read in the month of April. Now, I did say this was an MBR / whatever BR because I've only got 4 definites. I don't want to put too much pressure on myself in this month, and 2 of the 4 books that I have are going to be quite heavy. So, and then I've got a bunch of things that may be read, some mood reads. I'm in the mood to carry on with series and get some sequels done right now, and then a couple of other mood reads that may not be read. So jumping into the 4 definites, the first one that I have off the bat is the buddy read happening over on the Discord. If you want to join, there is still time. This is going to be The Divine comedy. In the month of April, we'll be starting off with the first one, Inferno. Now, this is a poetry. The translation that I have for this one is from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, and I've heard it's one of the harder translations to get into. So I may end up doing this one on audio as well, even if the translations are slightly different. But I am doing this with a few people over on the Discord. So like I said, if you want to join in, if you've always wanted to read it, this is a bucket list book for me, and I really do want to give it a go and give it my all. I bought this edition because lots of margin space, because I do want to be annotating this one as we go through. So this is going to take a bit of brain power, but I'm really excited to finally read this one because it's been on my list of wanting to read it and wanting to understand it for so long. The next thing that I'll be reading is Reaper's Gale. This is book 7 in Malazan Book of the Fallen. Now, I'm probably going to do those separately. So I'll read Dante's Inferno at some stage, and then I'll read Reaper's Gale separately. So I'm not doing both of those at the one time. I'm really enjoying the Malazan journey so far. I don't want it to wait too long until I pick up the next book, because I'll just forget things that are happening. So I've taken, I think, 2 months off. No, a month off after I read Bone Hunters. So it's time to jump into Reaper's Gale. The next one is going to be the audiobook of the month. Now, I'm only giving myself one audiobook this month, and then I'll just put something in there if I end up having time, and this is the Rascor Plains. This is the Immortal Great Souls Book 2 by Phil Tucker. Last Rock, I think that's what it's called, was Book 3, which came out earlier this year, and I think the audio for that is coming to my earbuds in August. So I want to make sure that I'm ready for it, and again, moving on some sequels and trying to get up to date with series that I'm currently reading. The fourth and final definite that is happening in the month of April is a beta read for Baptiste Pinson Wu, and that is The Blood of the Kami. Now, I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's very likely that I did not. This is I think it's for a younger audience from his previous work. I've not read any of this author's work so far, but I'm very interested in doing so. And when he did a call out for betas, I happen to have a beta slot available in April. So I put my hand up for it, and I'll be reading this one in the month of April. So I'm hoping, because it is for a younger audience, it'll be a nice little palate cleanser as I'm reading and trying to help the author with their process while I'm doing some of the heavier reads of the month. So those are the definites, things that may be read if I have some time. Empire of the Damned is another sequel that has come out. This is by Jay Kristoff, the follow-up to Empire of the Vampire. I'm hoping that I don't need to reread the first one before jumping in. My father-in-law just reread the first one and is jumping into this one now. And I asked him what happened at the end of the first book, and he told me, so I'm pretty sure I'm okay just to jump into this one. But I'm very much looking forward to this. Again, I've heard there's a lot of emotional damage that is coming my way in Empire of the Damned. But that's okay. Very easy to read. And another sequel that I've been thinking about almost daily is The Blinding Power by Cassidy Faline. And again, this is for a younger audience. So it is dark. The first book was quite dark for a YA book. But because it is for a younger audience, it reads very easily, and it was fantastic. The Awakening Fire was a lot of fun, not for the people inside of the book. And she was kind enough to send me this one, and I haven't read it yet. So that'll be next up on the sequel train if I'm carrying on with doing some sequels. The next two are the ones that are calling to me in terms of mood reading, of just wanting to pick up and give it a go. And the first one is going to be The Dead Take the A Train by Cassandra Core and Richard Kadri. I put this one up in a book haul. People were quite excited that I have this book. It is beautiful. That cover, this camera is not going to do that cover justice, but it is delightful. Check that out on the back. Look at that. And I find Cassandra Core so very easy to read. I've not read anything by Richard Kadri before, but I've heard very good things about this one. I love a cosmic horror, which is just a bit out there. So potentially that one could come my way as well. And the last one that I've been called to read, I happened to find in a secondhand bookstore when we went shopping the other day as a hardback, and I was like, well, I'm bringing that home, but it is a chonky beast, and that is Under the Dome by Stephen King. I've not read one of Stephen King's really giant books since I tried to reread The Stand a couple of years ago. I got to page 700 in The Stand. It was a reread. It's still one of my favorite books of all time, but I got to page 700 and ended up putting it down. I will go back to it at some point. But Under the Dome, I've wanted to read it for years, and I did not like the cover that came from the television series. So when I saw this one for $15, I picked it up. So now that I own a physical copy, there's really no reason for me not to, but it is chunky. So if I end up reading this, Dante's Inferno, and Reaper's Gale, that'll be it for the month. I'll just be reading 3 books. So we'll see what happens there. But that was it. That was a little bit of a life update, what I'm definitely reading, things that have been calling to me on the sequel train, and then a couple of mood reads that potentially could be read in the month of April. What are you picking up? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like the content, give one of those. And if you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.